Cal wiped the sweat from his brow as he stepped into the dim light of the docking bay. The space station smelled like rust and old oil. Most of the ships around him were scraps, good for parts but not for flying. He didn't need anything fancy. Just something that worked. Something cheap. The dealer, a wrinkled man with half a smile, pointed toward the corner of the hangar. "That one," he said, lighting a cigar. "No questions, no complaints. Take it and leave." Cal looked. Where the man pointed, a battered freighter sat half in shadow. The hull was scorched, the paint peeled. It looked like it hadn't flown in months. Still, the structure was solid, and the engine core was one of the old reliable models. Not fast, but strong. "How much?" Cal asked. The dealer leaned in. "Half what it's worth." "But you don't ask why." "Deal?" Cal hesitated. His gut whispered something felt wrong, but the price was too good. He had been searching for weeks, and this was the first ship that didn't break his budget. He nodded once. "Deal." The transfer was done in minutes. Cal received the ship's codes and walked up the ramp. The lights flickered when he powered. Up the console. The ship's I greeted him with a weak voice, then cut out. He'd have to fix that. One more thing on a long list. He opened the storage bays, checked the sleeping quarters, and scanned the cockpit. Everything seemed empty, until he walked into the engineering bay. Something was off. There was a faint smell, not just fuel or dust, something warmer, like cloth and sweat. Cal slowed his steps. He tapped his cum to scan for life signs. The reader showed nothing but the air. It felt like it was holding its breath. He moved toward the back of the bay where a panel hung loose from the wall. It looked like someone had opened it recently. He grabbed the edge and pulled. Inside the crawl space, hidden behind wires and old supply crates, two figures blinked up at him. A woman, pale blue skin, long dark hair tangled around her face, and a child, no older than 6, huddled. Close to her side, the child's eyes were closed. The woman's eyes were sharp, alert, ready to fight. "Please," she said in a rough whisper, "don't call security. I'll leave. Just give us one more day." Cal stepped back, shocked. His hand moved toward the cum on his wrist, but he didn't press it. "Who are you?" he asked. "No time," she replied, pulling the child closer. "She's sick. We just needed a place to rest. We didn't know someone would buy the ship so soon." Cal stared at her. Her voice trembled, but her body stayed still, protective. She was ready to shield the child with her own life. "Were you hiding here the whole time?" he asked. "Yes, we've been quiet. We didn't damage anything. Just don't turn us." The child coughed, a deep, dry sound that hurt to hear. Cal looked down. The little one had ridges on her neck, gills maybe, and her cheeks were sunken. Not enough food. Not enough water. He took a step back and sat on a crate. "You could have died in here," he said. The woman looked away. "We nearly did." Ship was silent around them. The hum of the systems was low and uneven. Cal ran a hand through his hair. He didn't sign up for this. He just wanted a ship, a way to get work again. But now, sitting just a few feet away, was something no one would believe. A living alien, not just that. A mother and child hiding from someone or something. Cal finally stood up. "I won't call security," he said. The woman looked up sharply. "But," he continued, "you need to tell me everything. Why are you here? What are you running from? And why was this ship sold so cheap?" She closed her eyes. Her arms tightened around the child. "If I tell you," she said softly, "you'll wish you never knew." Cal felt a chill down his spine. Outside, the lights of the station flickered. Once, a patrol ship passed slowly by the window. He looked at her, truly looked. Not just at the strange skin or odd markings, but at the way she held her daughter, the way her body shook just slightly with exhaustion. She wasn't dangerous. She was desperate. "I'm Cal," he said. "This is my ship now, but I guess we're sharing it." The woman's lips parted. She blinked once. "I'm Alra," she said, barely above a whisper. The child coughed again. And Cal walked to the medkit mounted on the wall. "I don't know what species you are," he said, pulling it free, "but I know what a sick kid looks like." Alra didn't stop him, and as Cal handed her the kit, he didn't realize that a silent alarm had just been triggered on the ship's comms panel, a message flashing red in the background. "New life signs detected, forwarding to local security." Alra didn't sleep, even when Cal offered her a real bed in the crew quarters. She stayed curled beside her daughter in the back of the engineering bay, one hand always touching the girl's chest to check her breathing. Her eyes never stopped, scanning the corners, the ceiling, the door, like she expected someone to burst through at any moment. Cal, on the other hand, barely understood what he'd stepped into. He hadn't even named the ship yet, and now it was a shelter for two fugitives. He hadn't told anyone. He hadn't called station security. Not yet. But questions filled his mind. Who was this woman? Why did she look terrified every time the outer com buzzed? Why had the dealer sold the ship for less than scrap value? The next morning, Cal brought a sealed food pack and a bottle of clean water. "I'm not poisoning you," he said as he set it down. "I just figured your daughter needs more than ration crumbs." Alra didn't answer. She tore open the package carefully, then woke her child, whispering soft words Cal couldn't understand. The child blinked up with weak eyes. She was too thin. Too quiet. "What's her name?" Cal asked. Alra hesitated. Then, softly, she said, "Sia." Sia reached out for the food with small hands, and Cal noticed her fingers, longer than a human's, with thin glowing lines running through the skin, like veins that shimmered. She wasn't just alien. She was something rare. "You still haven't told me why you were hiding here," Cal said. Alra looked up slowly. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned. "You said you wouldn't ask." "I said I wouldn't call security. But now you're my responsibility. I should know what kind of fire I've stepped into." For a long time, Alra said nothing. Then she reached into the folds of her coat and pulled out a thin metal disc. She pressed it, and a small projection flickered to life, an image of a planet covered in smoke and fire, soldiers dragging prisoners through the dirt. "That was my home," she said. "I was a medic. I helped the injured, both sides, not just my own. When the war ended, they wanted someone to blame for the loss, so they blamed the ones who healed." Cal watched the image switch, now showing Alra in a lineup, surrounded by armored guards, her arms in chains. "They said I gave secrets to the enemy," she said. "They didn't care that it was a lie. I escaped before the trial. Sia was born after that. We've been running ever since." Cal stared at the flickering light. He didn't know what to say. The image switched off, and Alra tucked the disc back into her coat. "Why this ship?" he asked. "Why hide here?" "It was once a medical carrier," she answered. "Years ago, I recognized it. It had emergency systems I knew how to access. We hid during a cargo transfer. Then the dealer stripped the ID and sold it off. We thought we had more time." Cal walked back to the cockpit and checked the ship's logs again. Most were corrupted, deleted on purpose. But he found one message fragment, a warning from an incoming patrol asking about unauthorized life signs on board. The ship had ignored it. He tapped into the station network and searched her face. His stomach dropped. Alra's profile came up instantly. Wanted. Extremely dangerous. Bounty offered, dead or alive. Not just for desertion, but for war crimes, sabotage, espionage. He turned to look at her through the doorway. She was wrapping her daughter in a soft gray blanket, brushing back her hair with shaking fingers. Cal could feel his pulse racing. He'd seen this kind of bounty before. People didn't come back from charges like these. He could hand her over and walk away with more credits than this ship was worth. He could upgrade, move on, forget this ever happened. But then Sia looked up and spoke for the first time. "Are you going to sell us?" Her voice was tiny, her eyes wide. Cal couldn't answer right away. He walked back to the girl and knelt down. She shrank behind her mother, but didn't hide. "I don't sell people," he said. Ciya blinked slowly. "My mama said you're a good one." I didn't believe her. Alra didn't speak. She didn't thank him. But the look in her eyes changed from fear to something softer. Something tired. Cal stood up again. "You said she's sick," he said. "How bad?" "She's stable for now," Alra replied. "But I need a compound called Lurix 7. It's rare. Her species needs it to break fevers. Without it, she..." Didn't finish the sentence. Cal sighed and turned toward the console. "I know a junker, 2 systems away. They deal with outlaw medicine. If we're lucky, they have it. But we'll need to leave fast." Alra nodded once. As Cal began powering up the ship's core. He didn't notice the blinking light in the corner of the comm screen. A silent alert had already been sent out. "Local patrol, scanning nearby vessels for biosigns. Suspected fugitive may be aboard. Prepare for inspection." The ship shuddered once, then settled. They had lifted off the station just minutes before patrol scans hit their dock. Cal sat in the pilot's seat, knuckles tight around the controls. His heart beat louder than the engine. Behind him, Alra held Sia close, wrapped in blankets, whispering in her ear to stay still, stay quiet, stay strong. As the stars stretched across the screen, Cal adjusted their heading toward an old trade route. His goal, a forgotten junker dock where smugglers sometimes sold illegal medical supplies. Lurix 7 was hard to find, but not impossible. Still, the weight pressing down on his chest wasn't from fear of failure. It was from knowing who he was now protecting, a wanted fugitive, and her child. Once they were deep in quiet space, Cal left the cockpit and went to inspect the ship's systems. The engineering bay hummed with low power. He ran diagnostics. Fuel was low, oxygen stable, comms locked. Then he moved to the external hull status screen. His eyes narrowed. There were scorch marks across the rear plating. Long, deep grooves. Not old. Recent. He checked the timestamps. Damage happened just 3 cycles ago. That was during the time Alra and her daughter were hiding inside, which meant someone had already tried to destroy this ship. He pulled up security footage, but most of it was corrupted. The only working clip showed a blurred figure in heavy armor firing at the freighter from a small assault pod, then vanishing in the clouds of the station's outer levels. No audio, no ID. Cal leaned back and exhaled. He wasn't dealing with bounty hunters anymore. This was bigger. Whoever was chasing her had weapons and silence. He returned to the living area, where Alra was spooning water into Sia's mouth. The child was warm again, still breathing, but barely. "You didn't tell me someone already tried to kill you on the station," Cal said quietly. Alra didn't flinch. "They didn't kill us," she answered. "That's not the point," he said. "You're being hunted, not arrested. Eliminated." She looked at him, tired but calm. "I told you, they don't want justice. They want silence." "Who are they?" Cal asked. She hesitated, then nodded toward the medbay. "Let me show you." Inside the medbay, Alra opened a panel behind the wall. Hidden inside was a thin box with alien script glowing on its surface. She opened it carefully and pulled out a small crystal. When she tapped it to the console, a projection lit the room. It showed a facility deep underground, alien scientists, guards in high armor, and rows of prisoners strapped to machines. They weren't being interrogated. They were being drained. Data flowed through wires connected to their heads. Alra appeared in the footage, dragging a wounded man off a table and escaping into the darkness. "That was 2 years ago," she said. "They were testing something. They used us. Medics, civilians, anyone who had access to soldier biology. They stole memories, neural maps, everything. Why? Cal asked. To build artificial weapons, she replied. Creatures that could copy enemy tactics. My job was healing, but I saw too much. I downloaded this before I fled. Cal stared at the projection, the screams, the silence, the horror. You didn't commit war crimes, he said. You exposed them. They called it treason. And the bounty? He asked, is it real? Alra's voice dropped. It's not about arrest. It's about erasing the evidence. Me, my daughter. Cal rubbed his face, then looked at Sia, asleep now, her small body curled under a patchy blanket. How is she connected? Alra hesitated longer this time. She's not just mine by blood, she whispered. She was born during an experiment escape. They wanted to test reproductive responses under stress. I volunteered to protect another prisoner. I didn't know they had already begun splicing. Cal felt the air go cold. She's not fully your species, he said. She's not fully anything, Alra replied. But she's alive. She's mine, and she deserves a chance to grow up without being hunted. Before Cal could respond, the ship's alert rang once. A soft beep, not loud, but sharp, incoming signal. Hidden channel, not local traffic. Cal tapped the screen. The message blinked. We know what you found. You have 12 hours to surrender the fugitives. After that, your ship becomes a target. There was no name, no origin. Just the cold message. And a pulsing red mark on the map. Something was already tailing them, slowly matching their speed. Cal stood still. Alra looked at him. What now? She asked. Cal didn't answer. He walked to the control panel and shut the signal off. Then he looked back at her, not with fear, but with a decision made. We don't run anymore, he said. Not blindly. What does that mean? It means we fight smart, he said. And we don't die for free. The ship was silent, not the peaceful kind, the kind that hides fear under every hum of the engine. The kind where even the lights seemed too loud. Cal sat in the cockpit, staring at the blinking red mark on the nav map. Whatever was tracking them, it wasn't in a hurry. That was worse. That meant it knew exactly where they'd go. It didn't need speed. It had control. Alra stood behind him, holding a warm cloth to see his forehead. The child was sweating again, her breathing shallow. Her skin had taken on a dim green hue, not normal. We can't stop, Cal said. But we also can't be found, not yet. Alra nodded. They always find us. Doesn't matter where. I run. That's because you run the same way every time, Cal replied, getting up from the seat. This time we do it my way. He led her down the hall to a sealed panel in the floor. When he pried it open, dust flew into the air. Inside were a series of modules wrapped in foil and faded rags, hidden tools, locked boxes, a rolled map, and something Alra didn't recognize. What is all this? She asked. Cal gave a half smile. Before I fixed engines, I used to fly contraband, small stuff, nothing deadly. But you learn how to vanish. You learn how to lie to scanners better than you lie to people. He lifted out a gray tube and plugged it into the wall panel. The ship lights flickered. Then, slowly, the hum of the core shifted to a deeper tone. Smoother, quieter. Thermal signature jammer, he said. Fools most patrols, unless they're military grade. He reached for a cracked screen nearby and activated a program labeled Chimera. The ship's ID began scrambling, the outer sensors flickering with a fake registry tag, a new name, new color, new class. They were now a mining vessel called Echo Dust. Alra looked impressed. You've done this before. Too many times, Cal replied. But it never mattered. I was alone then. Now I've got passengers. He moved to the comm system and pulled a wire from under the floor. I'll block outgoing pulses. No more silent tracking. But something in the back of his mind whispered it wouldn't be enough. As night cycles passed, Alra stayed by Sia's sighed, whispering lullabies in a language Cal didn't understand. The girl barely moved. Her temperature dropped again. Time was running out. They were one jump away from the junker dock now. Cal checked the fuel levels. Barely enough for one. More burn. And then nothing. He sat beside Alra and finally asked what had been pressing on his mind since the moment he saw them. Why not leave her behind? Alra didn't turn to him. You mean to survive? Yes, Cal said. You're strong, smart. You could have disappeared without her. But dragging a sick child makes you easy to catch. Alra stroked Sia's hair. They took everything else, she said. My people, my home, my freedom. She's the only thing I chose. She's the only thing they didn't take. I'd rather burn with her than survive alone. Cal looked down. He didn't speak. There was nothing to say. The ship rocked slightly. A soft tremor. Cal jumped to the console. A signal had just bounced off their hull. Not a lock-on, a scan. Somebody had found them, but the radar was clean. No ships within visual range. Then a small dot appeared, tiny, no drive heat. No sound. A stealth drone. He cursed and powered down the external grid. Lights dropped to emergency level. Engines slowed. He reached for the old smuggler's lever. Hidden under the control panel, flipped it. The ship's entire energy signature vanished. To the outside, they were now nothing more than a frozen asteroid drifting through space. Alra appeared behind him. What happened? Drone scan, he said. Someone dropped it in deep space to sniff us out. That's high-level tech. Expensive. Alra's voice dropped to a whisper. They're getting closer. They floated for hours, engines dead, power on minimum. Air slowly getting thinner. Sia was wrapped in every piece of cloth they had. Alra gave her half of her own oxygen mask when the air got dry. Cal didn't sleep. He didn't even sit. He waited. Finally, the scan stopped. The drone's signature blinked off radar. Cal gave it another 10 minutes, then turned everything back on with a single, hard switch. The ship roared back to life. They had made it. For now. He looked at Alra and gave her the coordinates of the junker dock. If we jump now, they won't expect it. The drone scan would have told them we're dying. Let's use that. She nodded. He engaged the drive. The stars twisted around them, and then the junker dock appeared. A ring of broken hulls and floating salvage ships orbiting a dark rock. But as soon as they entered the perimeter, a message flashed on the screen. Don't land. You've been flagged. Eyes are already here. Cal's jaw tightened. He looked at Alra. They're ahead of us now. The ship drifted near the junker dock, but it never touched down. Cal held the controls steady, eyes locked on the warning message flashing across the console. Someone had beaten them there. Someone who knew what they were carrying. He scanned the orbit. No ships had their beacons on. But junker docks never followed rules. Many of these wrecks were empty shells. Others hid smugglers, pirates, and worse. Alra stood behind him, holding Sia in her arms. The child was burning again. Her skin was slick with sweat, lips pale. Her head rolled back slightly. No sound. No strength. She's crashing, Alra said. We need Lurik 7 now. If her organs fail, she won't wake up again. Cal clenched his fists. Every option led to a wall. They couldn't land, too risky. They couldn't jump again. Fuel was down to fumes. And the girl? She was fading by the minute. He stood and grabbed his gear pack. There's one option, he said. I go alone. I'll dock on a wreck, sneak inside, and find a dealer. They'll recognize me. Some owe me favors. Alra shook her head. It's too dangerous. Cal looked at Sia. Her chest was barely moving. There's no choice. He pulled a breather mask over his face and slid into the side pod. A small emergency craft bolted to the outer hull. The seals hissed shut, and within seconds, he detached from the main ship and guided the pod toward a half-broken transport ship on the outer edge of the dock. The wreck looked dead, but Cal knew better. These places were like spiders' nests. Quiet outside, full of life inside. He landed with a soft thud and stepped into the dark. His boots echoed on old metal. The hall smelled like oil and burned plastic. Lights flickered above. Ahead, a small red lamp glowed, a sign. He followed it. A door slid open. Inside, a shadow moved, short, broad, with one eye covered by a metal lens. "Cal," the man said, voice raspy. "I thought you were dead." Cal stepped forward. "Still breathing. Barely. I need Lyric 7. "Now," the man Jarek scratched his head. "Hard to come by." "What's it for?" "Child," Cal said. "Alien hybrid." "Fever's killing her." Jarek blinked. "You've changed." Cal didn't answer. Jarek opened a hidden box behind the counter and pulled out a small case. "Last vial," he said. "Costs more than your ship. I'll owe you. You already do." Cal reached for the vial. But just then, gunfire echoed through the hall. The walls shook. Jarek grabbed a rifle from under the table. "Someone's found us," he growled. Cal turned toward the door. On instinct, he shoved the vial deep into his belt, nodded once to Jarek, and ran. Back through the halls, back toward the pod. But footsteps followed him, heavy boots, echoing close behind. He reached the pod door, turned, and saw a figure step out of the shadows. Black armor, red lines glowing across the chest, helmet shaped like a skull. The bounty hunter. "You've made this difficult." The hunter said. Cal didn't speak. "You have something that belongs to my employer. The woman, the child, and now the cure." He raised his weapon. But before he could fire, an explosion rocked the wreck from the other side. Jarek's booby traps. Smoke filled the corridor. Cal dove into the pod, slammed the hatch, and launched. The pod spun once, sparks flying off the engine. But it made it back to the ship. He crashed into the docking tube, stumbled inside, coughing, holding the vial in. One hand. "She's not breathing," Alra shouted. Cal didn't stop moving. He ran to the med bay, slammed the vial into the injection port, and hit the button. The machine hissed, then clicked. A soft light glowed over Sia's chest. For a long moment, nothing changed. Then, a soft breath, shaky. Then another. Her eyes blinked open, unfocused but alive. Alra let out a sound Cal had never heard. Half sob, half relief. She dropped to her knees beside her daughter and held her close. Cal leaned against the wall, chest heaving. They had bought time, but that was all. Outside the ship, a small tracking device floated free, launched by the bounty hunter's rifle. Before the explosion, it latched onto the hull silently, unseen, and far away on a hidden channel. A voice whispered to someone in command. "They're still alive, and they're running again." The ship floated in silence, far from the junker. Cal had shut everything down. Power low, lights dimmed, comms locked. After what happened on the wreck, he knew eyes were watching. Somewhere out there, in the dark between stars, someone was tracking them again. But inside, for the first time, the air felt different. Sia was breathing steady. Her fever had broken. The strange lines under her skin no longer pulsed with warning. They glowed gently, like quiet stars under her skin. Alra sat beside her daughter, stroking her hair, whispering stories in her language. Stories about skies that changed colors and birds that never touched the ground. Cal watched from the hallway, his shoulder against the wall. His arm still ached from the pod crash, and his mind wouldn't rest. He had questions, and no time left for patience. Stepped into the room. "We need to talk." Alra turned. Cal's voice was calm but cold. "You said she was a hybrid. You said she was born during an escape. But her body glows with energy I've only seen once in old war footage. Bioweapons. Lab-grown organisms. Artificial souls." Alra didn't look surprised. "You're not wrong." Cal crossed his arms. Tell me the truth, all of it. Alra reached down and gently pulled back the blanket from Sia's arm. The child didn't wake. Along her forearm, barely visible, was a mark, not a scar, not a tattoo, but a brand shaped like a spiral sun wrapped in vines. That's the mark of the project, she said. They didn't just experiment on prisoners, they created them. Sia wasn't born by accident. She was made. Cal's eyes narrowed. Made how? They took genetic samples from dozens of species, Alra said. Tried to create something that could survive anything. War, heat, cold, poison, gravity shifts. A living memory vault. A weapon that could learn and never forget. Cal's voice dropped. She's a memory keeper. Yes, Alra said. But something changed. When she was born, they said she was flawed, too human, not stable. They marked her for disposal. Her hands trembled as she spoke. I ran. I stole her. I couldn't let them take her apart. Cal leaned against the wall again. All this time I thought I was helping a fugitive, but I've been hiding a living archive. A walking library of stolen science. Alra looked at him. She's still a child. She dreams of butterflies. She laughs at stories. She gets scared in the dark. They made her with data, but she grew with love. That makes her real. Cal didn't argue. He couldn't. The girl had smiled at him, held his finger with her glowing hand. She wasn't just code. She's not just a memory vault, Alra continued. She holds secrets even I don't understand. Locked inside her bones, her blood. They want that. Not just to study, to sell. Whoever controls her, controls the future of bioengineering. Cal closed his eyes. Everything made sense now. The drone scans, the silent threats, the bounty hunter in black armor. It wasn't just about revenge or betrayal. It was about power. Sia wasn't a person to them. She was the most valuable object in the galaxy. Suddenly, the lights blinked red. The console beeped twice. Boarding latch detected. Cal spun toward the hallway. The ship's rear hatch was activating, not because they opened it, but because something else had forced it open. Stay with her, he told Alra, then ran to the supply locker. He grabbed a shock rifle, checked the charge, and crouched. Behind a bulkhead. The door hissed. Footsteps, slow, heavy. Then a voice, calm, cold. You've run enough, engineer. It was the bounty hunter. Same voice, same armor. This time no mask. His face was pale, eyes dark gray, hair perfectly smooth. You survived the wreck, Cal said. Barely, the man replied. But I tracked you. Left a seed on your hull. You should have cleaned better. Cal aimed the rifle. You're not getting her. The man didn't flinch. I don't need to get her, he said. I only need your ship. The extraction team is already on its way. Behind Cal, a second signal lit up. Multiple incoming vessels, fast, silent, labeled as medical transports. But their energy signatures screamed military. Alra's voice shouted from the other room. Cal, they're jamming our comms. The bounty hunter stepped forward. This doesn't end with you. You can't outrun a galaxy. Cal fired. The rifle burst once, but the hunter ducked, rolled, and disappeared into smoke. Alarms blared. Lights flashed. Cal rushed back to the cockpit, slammed his hand on the emergency lever. We're not staying, he shouted. But where will we go? Alra asked, breathless, holding Sia tight. Cal didn't answer. His eyes locked on a single set of coordinates, an old contact, buried deep in black space, outside official routes. I know someone who owes me, he said. He hit the thruster. Ship jumped, tearing through space, just as the hunter slammed into the wall from the G-force. But behind them, the real threat had only just begun. The ship came out of hyperspace with a violent jolt. Cal gripped the controls, struggling to keep them steady. Sparks flew from the overhead panel. Warning lights lit up across the cockpit. The jump had pushed the ship to its limit. The hull groaned, the engines smoked, but they were still flying. Alra held Sia close, wrapped in a heat blanket. The child's eyes were open now, tired but alert. She blinked slowly, staring out the side window at the new sky beyond. There was no station out here, no beacon. Just the black curve of a dead moon, and behind it, a field of floating wreckage, broken ships, shattered cruisers, lost cargo containers spinning through silence. "This is where you brought us?" Alra asked. Cal nodded. "I used to meet someone here. Years ago. She operated in the shadows, never asked questions. If she's still alive, we've got one last shot." Alra didn't argue. She didn't have the strength. Cal sent a blind pulse toward the moon's surface, an old code used by smugglers and outlaws long before peace treaties were signed. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a reply came, 3 quick bursts, and a signal. A hangar door opened on the far side of the moon, hidden between jagged rocks. They flew in. Inside was a chamber lit by red lights and lined with old fighter ships. Standing in the center was a tall woman in a faded flight suit, arms crossed, a scar running down her left cheek. "Took you long enough," she said. Cal stepped out of the ship. "Hello, Vera." She raised a brow. "You look worse than usual." "I brought guests." Vera looked past him. When she saw Alra step out, holding the glowing child in her arms, her expression changed. The scar seemed to tighten. "That's what this is about." Cal nodded. "She's the key to everything, and they're coming." Vera didn't ask for proof. She didn't demand payment. Instead, she waved them in. "Get inside. Reinforcements are coming from deep orbit. You brought heat with you." As they moved deeper into the base, Cal explained everything. The experiments, the memory vault, the bounty hunters. The silent war that no one talked about. Vera listened. Then she gave him a small box. "Last thing I stole before I retired," she said. "Burst drone with a beacon amplifier. You launch this near their fleet. It scrambles every sensor for 5 minutes." "That's all?" Cal asked. "That's all you need," Vera said. 5 minutes is the difference between death and freedom. Outside, long-range scans lit up. Enemy ships arriving fast. No time left. Cal turned to Alra. "You'll stay here," he said. "Vera has defenses. You'll be safe." Alra stepped forward. "No, you can't launch alone." Cal smiled. "I'm not alone. Not anymore." He ran back to the ship and climbed inside. As engines warmed, the system lights blinked red. The tracking seat on the hull had activated again. The enemy already knew, but this time Cal didn't. "Run!" He flew straight toward them, through clouds of debris and the cold dark of space. His battered freighter, once a forgotten wreck, now roared like a living beast. He launched the beacon drone, watched it fly toward the fleet, and counted under his breath. 1, 2, 3. The enemy's lights began to flicker. Confusion. Spread. 4, 5. There comes glitched. Engines MISFIRED. 6, 7. And then Cal hit the boosters, flying past them like a ghost. The drone exploded, scattering energy through the stars. He didn't fire a weapon. He didn't need to dot by the time the enemy regained control. He was already gone. Back at the base, Vera helped Alra and Sia into a shielded chamber. The girl's skin glowed brighter now, not from fever, but from strength. The child reached out toward the window, watching Cal's ship fly home. When he landed, the crew waited in silence. Alra stepped forward. "Why did you come back?" Cal stepped down the ramp, breathing hard, but smiling. "Because this ship isn't just mine anymore," he said. "It's ours." He looked at the worn metal walls, the patched circuits, the blinking lights that barely worked, and saw more than a ship. He saw safety. He saw family. He saw hope. Sia ran to him, arms wide. He caught her, lifted her up. And for the first time in a long time, Cal didn't feel like a man running. He felt like someone who had finally arrived. He thought he was just buying a ship, but what he found inside was a mother, a child, and a reason to never fly alone again.